Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's your man, Dame DNYDC, host of the Two Mics Up podcast. Back again today with my wonderful co-host, Elisa Middleton. How you doing today, sis?
Hey, bruh, I'm doing awesome. I woke up, so I'm
Hey,
winning.
hey, aren't
Listen,
we? Aren't we all? When that happens, it's a blessing to be able to wake up and see another day. And here we are today, and I think today we have a really, really amazing episode. Um, and before I get into really what today's episode is all about, I want to take a second, like we always do, by supporting small businesses and start with our sponsors who uh, really have helped Two Mics Up grow over season two. Our friends over at Next Level Keys and Riddick Entertainment. As I said here at Two Mics Up, we're all about supporting small businesses. Next Level Keys is a full service credit card repair firm that renders optimum services to their customers in all facets and walks of life. It could be qualifying for a mortgage or getting that new car. Contact our friend Quan at Next Level Keys at support at nextlevelkeys.com. You know, it's really great also here with Riddick Entertainment, which is a multifaceted event management firm based in Northern Virginia. Riddick Entertainment's detailed creativity and precision event planning will give you a truly meaningful and memorable experience. Contact Riddick Entertainment at info@riddickent.com. So, as I was saying, ladies and gentlemen, today's topic is really something that I came across um, just really watching the news. And it really opened up my eyes. And we had talked about, uh, in the past, I think offline, you and I, Lisa, about the trafficking that was taking place in and around our community, human trafficking, child trafficking. And I watched an episode on the news that was talking about this again, that's come to the forefront. And today's guest happens to be someone that it's just funny. This came up in my feed, and I started investigating and started reading more about it and what she does and what her organization does in our community. And I'm going to step back for a minute, and I'm going to allow our today's guest, Deborah Sigmund, to introduce herself and her organization to all of you listening and following along. So, Deborah, please take a moment and introduce yourself to our audience today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is so important. Awareness is essential for this
Mhm.
issue. For the past 16 years, I have been dedicated with my organization, Innocence at Risk, which we established in 2005, to protecting children, especially. This happens to women, children, and men. But the reason that I got involved with this is that I learned that it was a business
Mm,
selling children.
wow.
And I was horrified. And I said, this cannot be happening.
Mm,
The person that told me was from Europe and working on it there. And I said, I know that there are sick people that would take a child, but you're telling me it's a business? And she
wow.
said, oh, yeah, it's a big business. And I came back to the States. I was in Europe at the time on a trip. And first of all, as a mother, I was horrified that this could be happening. And I wanted all my friends to know who were also mothers. And I said, we have to know this. And
Mm,
no one talks about it. And the person that informed me, she said, yes, and I know. And in Europe, some governments look the other way.
wow.
yes, they do.
It is horrific.
Mhm.
And it's $150 billion industry now.
Jesus.
Wow.
And it is absolutely out of control.
Mm,
So what
wow.
we did, first of all, I never set out to start an organization. I just wanted people to know that this was really happening. We had to protect children, our children, and all of our children. And my friends, fortunately, were involved in Washington community, and they felt the same way. And then through friends, I was introduced to the person that was in charge of the issue at the Department of State, Undersecretary Paula Dobriansky. And I met her at a dinner, and she said, well, we need to talk to you. Come see me. I said, well, I have a lot of friends who care about this too. She said, well, let's just start with you. So I came to the office and I told her that I'd been learning about this issue through Interpol and some facts from the United Nations. And I had no idea. I mean, I said, no one talks about this. And it's really real. And then I heard President Bush, then President George Bush, talk to the United Nations. And what he said really hit me. He said, there is a crime that every nation needs to address. That children who've seen so little of life are forced into the very worst of life. A world, an underground world of sexual slavery. And it is slavery. And people just don't talk about it. So we began partnering with initially the Department of State and then organizations. And we did an event with Ricky Martin. I went to New York and met him when he addressed the United Nations. And we did an event together in Washington. And that was the first fundraiser for Innocence at Risk. And from that, we were able to put a film together, an awareness film, because I realized it couldn't just be me talking about this issue or my friends. So we had the Undersecretary of State on the film, Congressman Chris Smith of New Jersey. I met other Congress members as well. Carolyn Maloney from New York was very much in the forefront of this issue and fighting it and supporting Innocence at Risk. We later recognized her in an event. But we partnered with NGOs too. And I would tell them, I know we're new at this, but nobody owns this issue. And we all need to do what we can do. We actually should be standing on the street corners screaming about this.
I
And
agree.
Ricky Martin felt the exact same way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So the innocence at risk, what is innocence at risk? Can you just explain in detail what your organization is all about?
Well, we're dedicated to protecting women and children. And we do this through awareness outreach programs. As I said, we've partnered with organizations. We partnered with embassies also initially, and we've had events in embassies, events in schools, events that came actually later, but eventually we did events in churches, communities, clubs, everywhere that would have us. We would speak, and we still do this. And we also go into schools, which is so important.
Very important. Agree.
And the most important thing that we did, it was crucial to awareness, and it was a big breakthrough, is through these events, through one of our embassy events, a flight attendant heard about us. And she said, I have to meet her, to the friend that told her. She said, we see what she's talking about. Flight attendants see this all the time, and we don't know what to do about it. I said, I want to meet her too, because actually I'd heard this from a board member of Innocence at Risk traveling on an international flight from a British Air flight attendant. And my board member friend said, here I was talking to an international flight attendant on an international flight about what child trafficking was. And she said, there's something wrong with this picture. So she told stories about how children were getting on the plane. Sometimes they looked drugged. They looked afraid. They knew they were not with a guardian or parents.
Oh.
And so nothing was being done. So I told the State Department this. And they said, well, most likely they're being trafficked. And I said, what are we doing? And they said, well, we are actually contacting the CEOs of the airlines right now. So I said, wonderful. And then miraculously, the flight attendant from American Airlines, Sandra Ferrini, came to me and said, yes, we do see those things. And we don't know what to do about it. And she said, I was flying back from Dulles, from LA, and two kids that were traveling with backpacks handed me, said, will you help this girl? Someone gave her to us and wants us to put her on the plane. And she had a sign around her neck, call this number when I arrive. And Sandra said she was from Bangladesh. Now, this was in 2008 when we started this initiative. And Sandra said she spoke no English, and no one on the flight, even if they have French or Spanish or German or whatever, Russian, they don't speak Bangladesh or whatever. She said, but I took her under my wing and I called the number when we got here. And I was holding my breath. And I said, please tell me you didn't let her go. And she said, no, actually, the person that answered the phone was like, what? What do you mean? Oh, she's here? No. And what's her name? So Sandra read the name from the sign. She said, she's not even supposed to be here until tomorrow. Like
What?
she cargo.
What?
And I said, Sandra, please tell me. She said, no, I reported it to the airport police. But she said it took them a while to do something because initially I said, we've got to do something.
Wow.
I mean, it's like, that's not our problem. Sandra said, there's got to be people you can call.
Mm-hmm.
So they have. But so we sent with one flight attendant, started protecting women and children from human trafficking, giving flight attendants the national hotline number to call.
And that was
888. This is the national hotline number. 888-373-7888.
so just from this instance though, is this how you started?
Oh no. Well, there were several. There were many
Okay.
instances.
That built up to
It built
creating that
up with
hotline and
the British airline, the British airline flight attendant, and then the Sandra story. But there were countless stories. So we started the flight attendant initiative, and basically, Sandra would train she was flying internationally
Mhm.
out of Chicago, and she would train all of the flight attendants on the plane and tell them to go back and put this hotline in their phone and here are some brochures,
Mhm.
which we started with this brochure. And then by the end of the year, we had like 1,000.
Wow.
It's incredible.
And
And fortunately, about that time, I was in a meeting with at John Hopkins SICE with leaders in the NGO world fighting trafficking and members of the government officials there. And there were people from DHS. And I happened during break to tell them we were working with flight attendants. And they said, you're working with flight attendants? I said, yes, we are. And we could actually use some backup because there are 90,000 flight attendants worldwide. But what was happening, the American flight attendants we started with were training each other. And then it went to Delta and Southwest and US Air then. And we were getting calls constantly. And fortunately, it takes about 2 minutes to train a flight attendant because they've been trained for terrorism.
okay.
And as Sandra said to me, we don't need the corporate office telling us what to do. She said, this is an extension of our job.
So just out of curiosity, like just by having that in place now, have you seen any effects positive? effects
Yes,
take place?
especially. But let me tell you, initially, within several months, Polaris, who runs the national hotline number, would give us reports,
Mm-hmm.
and flight attendants seeing girls from Moscow coming 3 times a week, flying into Chicago, but telling the flight attendants they were going to work as models in New York.
Mm.
Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And several of the flight attendants would sit there and show them our brochure and say, "This is what's going to happen." I'd have to
Wow.
say, "Please don't do that. Um, we don't want people seeing these blue brochures on the plane,
Mm-hmm.
especially coming from Russia. We just want you to report it."
Right.
And so sometimes if they had difficulty in getting through, uh, because I think usually they had to have the captain call the national hotline number, they would call us. So I was getting calls all times of night. But I was glad because, but once we turned it over, we we met with Homeland Security, DHS. They established a blue lightning protocol, which instead of having to call the 888 number, the flight attendant would tell the captain and he would call ahead. And law
Okay.
enforcement is next. And this procedure is still in place.
Okay.
And we, according to DHS, even several years ago, they said, yes, you've saved several lives. I mean, several thousand lives.
That's
And,
good.
So,
and,
I
and
know.
Yeah.
I mean,
that,
there was, I introduced this initiative to Nancy Brevard, who runs Airline Ambassadors. And she and I have become colleagues and dear friends. But she even expanded it and started doing trainings in airports, which I've done many with her, and trainings abroad, because these are flight attendants that one of the reasons I took this initiative to Airline Ambassadors, these were flight attendants and supporters of Airline Ambassadors traveling around the world visiting orphanages. And I said, well, you can incorporate this
mm-hmm.
in what you do.
Right.
And she said, absolutely, we will. And she invited me to go on a mission to the Dominican Republic with them that following October, which I did. And 2 of our 3 flights coming back into the United States after 4 days, when the group of 20 people had to listen to me, and most of these people were businessmen.
Mm-hmm.
One ran a school, some were investment bankers, only one flight attendant. Everyone else was in business. But they had to listen to me for 3 days, for 3 times a day, what human trafficking was. And they had these brochures. So when everybody was leaving, we were on different flights. But I said, keep your eyes open, keep the
Mm-hmm.
brochure with you. So
No.
2 of those 3 flights had situations of trafficking.
Oh wow.
I know.
Wow.
So, what can someone in a community who is not a flight attendant, someone that is just an average person living day to day life, what should they be looking for? What are the signs? What? How can we help? How can the community get involved? What is the protocol or the mission statement? What can we do, or what should we
Right.
be
Well,
looking for?
first of all, it's really important that we talk about this issue.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And we will give you our website, which is Innocence at www.innocenceatrisk.org. So you can read more about it. And you can contact our office and tell us you want to be on our update list.
Okay.
But what we have learned fairly recently, actually, in the last couple of years, is that you do not have to be a flight attendant to report a situation. But these things happen not just in the airports and on the,
Right.
these happen in our malls,
Mm-hmm.
our schoolyards, our children are targets.
Mm.
They are definite targets. And the only way, as a CNN journalist told me many years ago, this is such a dark, hideous subject.
It
And
really is.
it's been able to thrive because no one talks about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the more light you show on it, the harder it will be for traffickers to operate.
Right.
So that is
So,
what we've seen.
do you find that the traffickers are targeting children that are maybe walking alone, or is it a grab situation and they grab the kid and go? Like,
Well,
what is the
that's a rare
experience?
situation.
Mm-hmm.
My colleagues always tell me that the movie Taken um, was, I mean, it was actually based on a true story, but no, there are not too many teenage girls that have fathers like Liam Neeson who can go. But I will say something in defense of that film. After that film came out, I was interviewed 5 times
Hmm.
by national television and local TV here, at NBC and ABC, and it Voice of America did a film, and you can see that on our website actually. But and if you make a donation, you click on the film pops up. You click
Okay.
on to donate, but we can show you everything. But well, your question was, tell me again, what was your question? I know I kind of got carried away there.
Well,
Well, basically, just like just awareness for our audience. What should they be on
Yes.
the lookout for?
Well, again,
How can they better protect themselves and their children?
mm-hmm.
talk about this issue. Tell your children to be very careful on the internet. The internet during COVID, traffickers have moved online, and many of them, and they can go into chat rooms. Kids say, "Well, I would never do that," and I've heard them say, "Well, I would never do that. I wouldn't. We don't talk to people we don't know. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know that. They can assume someone else's identity
All right.
and tell you to go meet them at a certain place."
Well, you touched on something that I do want to come back and touch on real quick. But before we do that, I want to take a quick pause for the cause and jump in and let some of our other sponsors who support Two Mics Up uh, get in here real quick. TD3 Insurance and Regina Leggett of Legal Shield. She's our independent associate. As always, here in Two Mics Up, we support small businesses. TD3 Insurance Agency protects and covers all your insurance needs from auto, home, renters, motorcycles, specialty, and life insurance. TD3 is licensed in the DMV, North Carolina, and New York with a brand new office, 3985 Prince William Parkway, Suite 206, Woodbridge, Virginia. Regina Leggett, if you need legal advice or legal representation, the days of no longer being able to afford an attorney are long gone. Get the legal advice and representation that you need. Contact Regina Leggett at reginaleggett.wearelegalshield.com. And coming back to, you mentioned something, during the pandemic. And I just wonder, not to say if there's been a slowdown, because I don't think child trafficking or human trafficking slows down. But have you seen maybe a change in the way that it's done? Because you mentioned the internet and all of these other things. Has that really become the way now that a lot of these individuals who are perpetrating this type of criminal activity, is this like the way that they're reaching out to kids now, more so than maybe like Lisa was saying, a snatch and grab or in the mall, that type of thing? Have we seen an uptick that way?
Well, let me yes, certainly. We've
Mm-hmm.
seen an increase. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has noticed there's a tremendous increase
Mm-hmm.
um, in in calls, in online reporting. Our office, Innocence at Risk, because we are not law enforcement, but
Mm-hmm.
we know who to call if someone does call us
Mm-hmm.
and needs help. And we have, during the lockdown, we received 3 calls from someone that knew a frantic mother whose daughter met somebody on the internet. And first of all, when I talked to the mother initially, I said, when we knew that she was going to be okay, I said, well, first of all, we're supposed to be in lockdown. Why is she out meeting somebody? She said, well, she just walked down to Barnes and Noble, close in the mall, and met him there. And the next thing, the girl disappeared. So those things happen. Kids are coerced. They're still coerced by different situations. And this happens to women too. It's not, just children. But as I said, it's the fact that it does happen to children is the reason Innocence at Risk is existing. But we do care, obviously, about everyone. But I have talked to so many young survivors that were coerced and met someone online, or they think it's their boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
It's a new boyfriend, and he turns out to be a trap. They will lure them for a little bit and buy them things and give them nice presents. So one of the things that teachers and parents and neighbors can look for is if there's a teenage girl that all of a sudden has a nice handbag, expensive this, expensive that, or are they showing different activity? They're missing, they don't show up for class, things like this. But it is everywhere, and online, it's very dangerous.
So
The other thing people
Mhm.
can do right now is because Innocence at Risk is very involved with lobbying Congress right now, because big tech companies have images of children. It's a big business, huge images of children. Children are taken, they've gotten pictures on the internet, and the next thing they do, they somehow, part of the problem is kids have sent pictures to a friend and it's taken off the internet, and all of a sudden it shows in a pornography, a porn ad.
Mm-hmm.
And this is real and it's serious. So we need to warn parents to tell their children to never, ever put a picture of yourself that you do not want the whole world to see.
Agreed. I mean, that's an education thing, that a conversation that needs to be had at home. I'm curious too, and I just have to ask as blunt as possible. I mean, uh, human trafficking is happening across all boards and all genders and all socioeconomic communities. Doesn't matter, rich, poor, middle class, and different. This is
No,
happening across the board to everyone, or in all.
absolutely.
Hmm. Okay.
Traffickers do not care.
Hmm.
They do not care. To them, it's money.
Wow.
Again, it's $150 billion worldwide, and in Washington, D.C., it's like 100 million.
Wow.
Unfortunately, the Washington, D.C. area is one of the worst areas.
It is. What are when you having these conversation with congressmen and the State Department, the Justice Department, embassy? What actively are we doing as a nation to prevent this?
Well, first of all, there is a trafficking in persons office at the State Department that is doing a lot. Um, Under President Bush, there was a first ambassador assigned to this issue, ambassador, and we work closely with that office, the Trafficking in Persons office at the Department of State. So they're sort of a role model because they have a tip report that comes out every year. But this is internationally. But they do now, the United States does rate themselves also. But in every tip report, they describe what the country is doing. And even if the country, like some countries are in difficult areas, like say Colombia a few years ago, but because Colombia was making a lot of effort and fighting the problem, they received a good rating.
Okay. Are we are here in the United States? Are we getting a good rating or making the same amount of effort as
Well,
Colombia? Or we're getting
oh
there. We're
well, we
working on it.
certainly we do more in this country
Hmm.
to end it and to help victims than any other country.
Okay.
Everywhere we need to work on legislation, and the traffickers need to be arrested, and they need to be go away for a long time, not a slap on the wrist.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It needs to be taken very seriously.
Exactly.
The
I
whole
agree.
issue.
The
It
whole
needs
entire
to be, as the former director of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children said, it needs to be front page news. I
Hmm.
can't tell you how many people say to me when I've educated them over the past, even as lately as the past year, well, why don't people talk about this? Why isn't it in the news?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, it is sometimes. And we're very grateful today to be on your show because awareness is essential. And
Agreed.
maybe, just maybe, someone will hear about this and they will talk to their child. They'll talk to their neighbors and say, you know, I want you to talk to your children about this issue
Hmm.
because children are at risk online. If we can save one child because of this broadcast,
Yep.
Absolutely.
And you hit it on the head. This is really what this is about. You know, our platform is all about. We really want to be able to educate our entire community on things and issues such of this that, like I said, a lot of times we sweep under the rug or we leave on the back page or we find difficult to talk about. So I thank you for joining us today and really educating us and our audience. Hopefully, like I said, if we can save one child or one person learn something that they can put into effect in their family and make a difference, that's what it's all about. Before we go, Deborah, please, if you can, just let us know, where can our audience and our listeners, find out more about Innocence at Risk. What can we do or how can we help? Can we join? Can we donate? Like, please give all of that information before we close out today.
yes, we need your donations. We need you to help us keep the office open, to keep our updates going out, to keep the internet on. Everything is costly. With the COVID crisis, everything is slowed down. We had to cancel our gala last year, which was a tremendous loss. So we've had a few donations dribble in, but we could really use your help. And it's so important because our whole organization is dedicated to protecting children. I also have interns from universities that come every semester and they help and they go back and spread the word to their colleagues and their classmates. So we're building a community in college campuses. This has been going on for the past 12 years. So we're doing a lot. We're working with mothers in every state, American Mothers, with American Mothers Inc. International. Mothers from every state since 2014 have been dedicated to educating the public. So we're expanding the message and we need your help to keep us going. So if you go on innocenceatrisk.org or call our office, 202 625 4338, let them know that you want to get involved or use it, let us know on our website, please. And if they have trouble getting in touch with us, which they shouldn't because our website is active and running, can they call you too?
Of course, be
Great.
Absolutely.
more than happy, more than happy to. That's what we're here for. We'll be happy to take that information and forward that information on. to those like you and innocents at risk to make sure that we're making any credible. Well, I find anything credible, but any type of information that can help save one life or save one person from any type of abuse or being you know illegally used and trafficked, we'll make sure that we get that information over to you. And yes, we'd be more than happy to support.
Thank you. And it's so important to tell everyone, tell members of Congress to support legislation fighting trafficking and keeping children safe online.
Agreed. Well, with that being said, Lise, before we close out today, you have anything you'd like to share, sis?
I'm just really glad that we are talking about this topic. I'm glad that we are getting this information out. It is time. It's been going on for so very long.
Hmm.
And I think that we need to call it what it is, and it's trafficking. Because
Right.
I think what happens in our society is that we're just so used to saying the wrong thing. So it gives people the misconception. So we say,
Mm.
oh, such and such, the neighbor's child, they're missing. No, they're gone.
Yeah.
They could be trafficked.
Traffic.
Like we
Right.
should be using the right, terminology to identify this as a crisis,
Hmm.
because it is a crisis in the world. So we need to teach. We need to act as such, like it is a crisis. So I agree.
Well said. Well said, sis. Couldn't have said that better myself.
Hmm.
So, listeners, as we close out today, want to go ahead and shout out our final two new sponsors, DJ Coco Brown and Bubbles and Brews Philly. As always, here on Two Mics Up, we're all about supporting small businesses. DJ Coco Brown, also known as Chanel Brown, is an experienced DJ who provides both mobile and virtual musical services. She's based out of Delaware. She's been here on the show. Check her out. You can contact her at DJ Coco Brown, Chanel.brown@gmail.com. Also, check out Bubbles and Brews Philly. They have also been on the show. They have an amazing vintage mobile Prosecco and craft beer bar unlike anything you've ever seen. If you want to have that unforgettable event, contact our friends at Bubbles and Brews in Philly. That's Bubbles and Brews at Philly at getcozybars.com. Again, thanks to all of today's sponsors who have continued to support us here on Two Mics Up. Ladies and gentlemen, you can check Lisa and I this coming Thursday. Thursday we like to let our hair down, have a little fun. We're going to go back and finish up the conversation about male rappers, but we're going to do it this week with a twist. So make sure you stay tuned. As always, follow Two Mics Up online at www.twomicsup.com. You can follow us on our social media platforms, IG, Facebook, Twitter, and now YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up. Don't forget the bell so you can be notified by everything coming to you from Lisa and I here at Two Mics Up. And like we always do, at this time, stay safe, stay blessed. Mike's out.